Okay, welcome, welcome. Can you hear me okay? Yes, you can. All right. Welcome, friends, welcome, family, welcome, community. I can't see because of the light. Thank you for joining us and celebrating our fabulous foursome, the class of 2017. We have many great speakers and performers in store for you this evening. But before we begin, in honor of my Irish great-grandmother, who immigrated from County Cavan, Ireland, I thought I would offer the graduates some Irish blessings. Lauren, may you always have work for your hands to do. May your pockets hold always a coin or two. May the sun shine bright on your window pane. May the rainbow be certain to follow each rain. May the hand of a friend always be near you, and may God fill your heart with gladness to cheer you. Christian, it's not going to be bad, it's going to be good. May you live a long life. See, that's good. Full of gladness and health, with a pocket full of gold as the least of your wealth. May the dreams you hold dearest be those which come true. The kindness you spread keep returning to you. Okay? All right. Caleb. May you have the hindsight to know where you've been, the foresight to know where you're going, and the insight to know when you're going too far. Always remember that hindsight is the best insight to foresight. Okay. And my dear Emily, may your joys be bright as the morning, and your sorrows merely be shadows that fade, the sunlight of love. May you have enough happiness to keep you sweet, enough trials to keep you strong, enough sorrows to keep you human, enough hopes to keep you happy, enough failure to keep you humble, enough success to keep you eager, enough friends to give you comfort, enough faith and courage to yourself, in yourself to banish sadness, enough wealth to meet your needs, and one thing more, enough determination to make each day a more wonderful day than the day before. And lastly, for my beautiful audience, I have 4 Irish toasts for you. Number 1, as you slide down the banisters of life, may the splinters never point the wrong way. Number 2, may your troubles be as few and as far apart as my grandmother's teeth. Number 3, may the good Lord take a liking to you, but not too soon. And number 4, beautiful young people are acts of nature, but beautiful old people are works of art. Amen. So enough with the blessings and the toasting. We're going to move on with the show here. In keeping with our new tradition of student MCs, pioneered last year by Zeke Torres, I introduce you to the intrepid Christian Conrad, our Master of Ceremonies this evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our 2017 graduation ceremony. I'd like to ask Mike Palfreyman to come up and thank the good Lord for all the miracles he has performed to get us here.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for the opportunity to be gathered here together as friends, family, associates, and community members to appreciate and recognize these 4 graduates. We're so grateful for being able to associate with them and have experienced what they have experienced with them, their successes these last 4 years. We're so grateful for the families of these individuals and all of the hard work and dedication that they've put in to allow them to develop and grow into the fine people that they are. We're so grateful as well for the faculty and staff of this excellent school, for their dedication in fostering these individuals' education. We would ask thee to please bless these 4 individuals, that they'll be able to be successful as they further their education this fall at college, that they'll be able to fulfill their dreams and aspirations through their educational experience. They'll be able to take all of the experiences and knowledge they've gained from being at this institution here and be able to use that as a stepping stone for a successful and fulfilling life. We recognize thy hand in all things. We ask that thou would please bless all of us, that when the time comes, we may return home in safety. We're grateful for all those who have come from far and wide to acknowledge and recognize these graduates, and we open these ceremonies with thy blessing in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. If I could ask my Aunt Sharon to come up for the presentation of the 8th grade certificates and promotion of the high school honor roll.
Whoa. That's for that. People needed it. All right. All right. So first and foremost, I get to welcome my adorable nieces who were my 8th grade class this year. We're all family here, really, but... So can I please have Miss Kaylee Baker come forward? This shows that you have passed the 8th grade and are on to high school, 9th grade. And then we have Miss Kara Conrad. Welcome to high school. You've completed the 8th grade. You survived my classes. All right, let's give them another round of applause, our incoming freshman class. You can sit down if you want to now. All right, next I'm going to present the honor roll for the high school classes. And this is anybody who performed above a 3.5, I believe. And actually, they're all above 3.7, so. Whew. So first and foremost, I have Mr. Christian Conrad. You don't have to. Congratulations. Next, I have the beautiful Jamie Waite. You can just stand right there so we see all of you. Congratulations. All right, now we have Mr. Caleb Baker, our salutatorian. Congratulations. All right, and now we have the high honors, which is basically 3.9, 4.0s. So, Miss Megan Baker. Congratulations. Molly Eldridge. Is she here? She might not be here. I'll accept it. No. We'll make sure she gets that. And then we have Melanie Heckathorn. Congratulations. Hey. Sorry, Sharon. Dallas Hayward. Woo! It's a long walk from the back. Congratulations. Good job. Thank you. All right, Vincent Pofferman. Awesome job. And last but not least, one of our valedictorians, Emily Waite. Sorry, not last. Both valedictorians. Awesome job. And of course, our other valedictorian, Lauren Pofferman. Congratulations. Let's give them another round of applause. Look at these smarties. Woo! All right, you can sit down. I'll let you. I'll turn it back over to my handsome nephew. You can put it back on there, sorry. I don't like leaning up into this because I'm too short.
Okay. Congratulations, guys. All right, if Janelle would come up for the presentation of the Academic All-State and All-Region Awards. Janelle has been nice enough to be our track coach, did all our paperwork for us, has taken us everywhere, and we'd like to thank you.
Actually, I don't present Academic All-State. They do that. The High School Activities Association does. But I present All-State. So Caleb and Lauren both received Academic All-State honors during the school year. Caleb in basketball, Lauren in cross country. They take approximately in 1A about 10 kids, 10 boys and 10 girls, and present them. And they have to have met some fairly strict criteria while participating in the sport of that season. So it's a high honor. Also, in addition to Academic All-State, we have, I'm short, this is not, can you hear me? I can't see anyone, so I'm talking to a room full of, I'm not sure what lights maybe. For cross country, we did really well this year. We only had 4 people, but those 4 performed very well. So first of all, we'll present those, and while I'm presenting the ones for cross country, we'll also present for track, because a lot of them are the same kids. Melanie Heckathorn was all-region, 7th place all-region on the cross country team, 3rd place all-region on the track team for the 100-meter hurdles. So Melanie, if you would come up. Vince Palfreman. Vince was 4th place all-region on the cross-country team and 4th place all-region in the 800 and 1600 meter for track and field, and ran at state, as did Melanie in both of those. Megan Baker. Megan was 3rd place on the all-region cross-country team, 7th place on the all-state cross-country team, 2nd place all-region track and field in the 800, 4th place in the 16. She was qualified in 3 events for state and was unable to run due to a tendon tear, which she's a little unhappy about still, as is everyone who lives in my house. Caleb Baker was all-region basketball. Christian Conrad, all-region track and field, 4th place in the 400, 3rd place in the 800, 2nd place in the 1600, 4th place discus, all-state track and field, 5th place 800 meter. And last but definitely not least is Lauren Palferman. Lauren was 4th place all-region cross country, 1st place all-region in the 100 meters, 200 meter, and 400 meter dash. At all state, she was 5th in the 100 and 200 and 3rd place in the 400 meter. Lauren is the only one that I've coached all of my seasons of coaching for the last 3 years in cross country and track. She's the only athlete that I've had for all of those, and I am going to miss her. So thank you. You guys can sit down. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to coach them. I know they get tired of me. I nag a little bit, and they spend a lot of hours in the car with me, but I really do enjoy it, and I really enjoy the kids. And I'm sad when they graduate, although I know they are not. Thank you.
Before everyone sits down, we just, in case you didn't see, we just wanted to give or say thank you to Janelle for everything she's done for us. She has been our cross-country coach, our track and field coach, as well as driving the basketball kids over 100 miles every day to practice and back. And we're just, personally, I loved track and field and cross country, sort of. And I'm really gonna miss it. And so I just really personally want to thank her so much for everything she does. So thank you, Janelle.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And if we could ask Teresa Conrad to come up, who we asked to give a speech, and she said yes. So we are very thankful for that. Thank you.
See this. Yes, they ask me. And I do want to say welcome. I'm happy to see everybody here, and I'm certainly glad to come and celebrate this occasion with these students. I'm not sure I really needed to give a speech to help celebrate, but on the other hand, how can a teacher refuse students asking you to talk? I mean, and it's especially amazing if you remember how many years they've been listening to me talk. So, and I do count it a joy to have an opportunity to have worked with these students. As a teacher, I want to acknowledge the gift they are to us, and how much I'll miss them in my classes. They're really good students. So, of course, one of the good things that goes with being family, in lots of different literal and figuratively, is that I get news of them as they go on and hear about all their wonderful accomplishments of students when they go on, and I'm sure these will be interesting to follow. I also want to remind them of the gifts they were given: loving families, their bright minds, health, their many different talents, even, dare I say, their good looks. and the opportunity to grow up in a place and a time that values and nurtures the individual. Parents and teachers can be proud of these students for the work they've done, their accomplishments, both academic and personal. And it's an amazing, as we've been listening, it's an amazing long list for just 4 people. So they should take pride in themselves for their work, their friendships, and the steps they've made toward responsibility and maturity. Now, this is an appropriate time, I think, to speak of these things. High school graduation celebrates a little bit the past and the promise of the future. It's a time to both reflect on what's done and talk of hopes and dreams, and I think at least a couple of them are maybe going to do that for us a little later. I know all of you here today join with me in hoping for and anticipating the best future for these graduates. As I understand it, a commencement speaker is supposed to articulate advice, insights about how to achieve such a future. Kind of a challenging task. However, since I'm pretty sure that very few people actually remember what's actually said at graduation, my highest objective is to just share an idea or two that will blend in kind of with those voices we all carry with us. You know what I mean? It's like when you think, yep, I know what Dad would have said about that. So if I can blend into that, I'll have accomplished my task this evening. So I titled the ideas that I have a busy schedule, and I kind of just sat down and wrote some stuff, so that's what you're going to get. And I titled my thoughts, Remembering and Forgetting. So first, recall, I'm a teacher, and teachers spend a lot of their lives thinking about, planning, working on how do you get students to remember. Now, my experiences in school, added to observations of myself and people in general, have led me to make a generalization or a hypothesis. I think there's a kind of human mental entropy, for lack of a better description, when it comes to remembering and forgetting. And if you don't know what that is, you can ask my physics students here what entropy is. So, in other words, when left to proceed without an input of energy, conscious choice, and will, we tend to remember what we should forget and forget what we should remember. Now, I'm willing to argue that this is not just true in an academic setting, but in a larger and more profound sense. I think that what we choose to remember and live by and what we choose to lay aside or forget makes a defining difference in where we end up and who we are when we get there. Now, the core of this idea is certainly not new. The cliche, remember the good, forget the bad, it's been around a long time, partly because I guess it's good advice. But what I want to emphasize is how important the consequences can be and the level of commitment and sheer effort it sometimes takes to follow that advice. At an academic level, and I guess sports too, which I don't know that much about anyway, but they made a choice to learn, to work hard, and to remember what they needed to do to bring them to this day, and now many doors are open to them. I also hope they recall all the experiences that helped them mature and the values that are important. It's actually not that big of a mystery about how to remember. You remember what you spend a lot of time thinking about and visualizing. You remember what you repeatedly talk about to others and internally to yourself. You remember what you care about, what you build, create. The more time, emotion, and connections, the better you remember. Of course, this also tells you how to forget. Don't do those things. Don't rehearse things. Is it worth it to make the effort to get the balance right? Yes, I think so. We all know people who have it wrong, and sometimes it's the person in the mirror, who can't be productive or much of an asset because no matter what, they're angry or see themselves as a victim. And I don't know why, but back to my thesis, it seems to take a lot more decision and effort to remember the larger picture, to commit to empathy and compassion in our dealings with others. And it seems to take so little effort to remember our angers and resentments. Fortunately, there's good news. Even when life is difficult, we have a choice about what to focus on. I can think of a lot of people in my life who were wonderful examples. I'm sure you can too if you just think for a minute. When my father was just a few years older than these young people sitting here, he served as a medic in the Korean War. As a child, I grew up hearing stories about Korea. He told us about the beauty of the countryside, the adventure of getting equipment through storms and mud and across pontoon bridges. He talked about some of the amazing characters he worked with, the Korean people he met. Through the many stories ran the message that life was very precious, and there was a deep appreciation for this country, its safety and freedom. Later in life, he became one of the first EMTs in this part of Millard County. Now, I can trace my interest in history and geography back to those early years and those stories, and it's not a coincidence that 3 of his children became EMTs. As an adult, I understand how different the narrative, the tone of his stories could have been. My dad spent time on the front line of fighting. He assisted in retrieving the wounded and dead, sometimes under fire. He had to triage patients, do whatever needed to be done to prepare the injured to be taken to a higher level of medical care. After I became an EMT, had a few experiences, I talked with him a little about his experiences. I always knew his faith had been his bedrock, but I still caught a glimpse of some of the, I don't really even know the right word, maybe anguish that he had had to work through. And I've studied some of the history. The Korean conflict had situations, realities, maybe like every war. There were frustrating, there were inefficiencies, things that could make a person cynical. Also, his stand as a conscientious objector made him very vulnerable to personal attacks that could have left him angry and bitter. But whatever he experienced of those things, he didn't rehearse it, and he didn't pass it on. And that's the right kind of forgetting. Now, that's a personal story, but there are others, some with much wider consequences. One that comes to mind is about George Washington at a time close to the end of the American Revolution. You guys didn't think you could escape from one more history thing right here. So, now, even though the British surrendered at Yorktown in 1781, and that's sometimes considered the end of the American Revolution, in reality, the war continued for 2 more traumatic, very difficult years. In 1782, the British still held New York, Savannah, Georgia, other places in the South. The Royal Navy controlled the seas. In 1783, by 1783, there had been long years of hardship, suffering, and challenges. The states, despite having signed the Articles of Confederation, acted in most ways as independent countries. The members of Congress were in constant disagreement. I guess things haven't changed much. But it was even worse then because under the Articles, pretty much you had to have a unanimous vote to get anything done. So it was hard. And the members of the Continental Congress also had no power to tax and could only petition the largely bankrupt states for money. So there's some background for you. And imagine being responsible for the Continental Army under these conditions. In fact, all through the war, Washington wrote hundreds of letters asking, pleading for necessities such as weapons, food, blankets, tents, whatever. By 1782, the frustration, anger, and distrust had brought the Army and other creditors of the Continental Congress to a point of crisis. Can you imagine being the officer who must tell his men again that they won't be paid with anything except paper money that's practically worthless? That there are no supplies coming? Whatever they need, they'll have to scrounge, or take it at the end of a bayonet. Independence may be close at hand, but those who had paid the highest price, they faced the prospect of returning home to their struggling families and failing farms with nothing. You also have to remember that the idea of Republican government at that point was an experiment, and it didn't always look very successful. In fact, it seemed so chaotic that some were willing to just abandon the whole idea. In 1782, there was a serious proposal made to Washington asking him to become king. Now, Washington made it very clear that although he understood their frustration, he would never have any part in such a thing. So when Washington became aware in the early part of March 1783 that Army officers had been meeting, sending letters to other state leaders, and actually were proposing and planning how the military could be used to take over the civilian government, you can imagine his concern. I mean, it directly threatened his own command and his reputation. So his response was to call what I would argue is one of the most important meetings ever in American history. So it was on Saturday, March 15th, 1783, Washington, who over the years he had earned the deep respect and love of his men, he stood before a group of officers and for the first time looked into faces filled with resentment and anger. I mean, partly they were angry that he wasn't going to lead them. He wasn't willing to go along with them. Well, he'd prepared a speech hoping to make them listen. He talked about his admiration, his concern for the Army. He assured them that even though it might be delayed, the government, it would act justly. He reminded them of the goals, the ideals that inspired them, and he urged them, quote, not to open the floodgate of civil discord and deluge our rising empire in blood. Well, when he finished speaking, there was no softening. There was no change. You could just feel that tension in the room. So he was unwilling to leave it there, and he remembered a letter that he'd just received from a congressman offering some words of encouragement and reassurance, so he decided to read it. He took out the letter from a pocket, unfolded it, and then something seemed to go wrong. There was a long pause. The general stood, stared at the paper. He looked uncertain, maybe even confused, very unlike his usual manner. Of course, they noticed, and the officers started pressing forward, shifting around, starting to be concerned. And then Washington pulled from an inner pocket something only those closest to him had ever seen him wear. It was a pair of eyeglasses. "Gentlemen," he said, "you will permit me to put on my spectacles, for I have not only grown gray, but almost blind in the service of my country." Somehow the humanity, I guess the truth of that statement, did something that the prepared speech failed to do. It reached past the bitterness, the just resentment, and allowed them to forget just enough. In fact, people who were there said tears started down many of the faces. Those hardened veteran officers remembered the ideals, the important principles they had invested their lives in. On that day, in that hour, the fate of the future United States was standing on a knife edge, balanced on a precipice. I mean, if you think the briefest look at history finds all too many revolutions that start with noble ideals and goals and high hopes, but with a military takeover, end in civil bloodshed, tyranny, and oppression. George Washington, who had as many or probably really more reasons than his officers to be angry, to feel betrayed, I mean, in all kinds of ways, he never forgot what was most important, and he inspired others to remember. In some ways, I think that's the essence of what makes a great leader. Also, though, you have to remember, that might not have been enough if those officers, too, had not been willing to remember, to stop and listen and make the right choice. And it's not, which they did, and it's not because all the problems went away. In fact, the problems kind of worsened in the next few years, even after the peace treaty was signed. And 4 years later, they pretty much, they abandoned the Articles of Confederation, and the Constitutional Convention met to write the U.S. Constitution, with George Washington as chairman. So to conclude here, large or small, it matters that you choose the right things to forget and the right things to remember and hang on to. If I have any advice for these wonderful young people, it's to keep the balance right. If you do, you'll always be able to hear and answer the highest callings in your future. Sigh, I'm done. To bring my stories to a conclusion, though, I will paraphrase some advice that was given 2,000 years ago. It actually kind of goes with their theme, I think. To those who seek maturity, hold true to what you have attained, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead. Press on to the goals that call you onward. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Just noticed I forgot to do Lauren's violin solo. Sorry, Lauren. So now we can do Lauren's violin solo.
You gotta do the lights. Oh.
to get my Grandpa John and Big Paper to come up. We will be playing a brass duet. Thank you, Grandpa and Greg, for playing with me. Now we are having a valedictorian speech from Emily Waite.
I'm a bit taller than my aunt. Okay. To my fellow classmates, teachers, family, friends, and esteemed guests, I am happy to stand before you today as one of EskDale High School's valedictorians, and I am so very proud to stand next to such an amazing woman as my fellow valedictorian. There were a few times throughout the year that I thought I would screw up and wouldn't achieve my goal of becoming valedictorian, usually after a particularly hard physics or calculus class. But here I am, standing before you achieving my goal. Becoming valedictorian was not always my goal. In fact, before 9th grade, all I really cared about was getting at least a B so my parents wouldn't be upset. I didn't care about school or even acknowledge the wonderful opportunity that it is. All I wanted was to finish as fast as possible with the least amount of effort and work required so I could go out and play, or hang out, as I was told was cool when you're in 9th grade. Obviously, I had a major attitude change, and I can contribute that to two things: a woman and Star Trek. I know, I sound like a huge nerd, but that's okay. Star Trek sparked my interest in science, which is kind of what my whole life has revolved around since then. With all its super cool technology it has, like transporters, warp speed, holodecks, each one made me wonder if something like that could ever feasibly be achieved. I think we're quite a ways off from transporters and warp speed, but at the rate technology is progressing, I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually created something like it. However, as interested as I was in science, I knew I probably wouldn't see any of those technologies achieved in my lifetime, so I didn't want to care about school or put in the effort required to actually do well. But as I said, Star Trek is only one of two reasons. With that tiny spark going off, so to speak, all I needed was someone to add the fuel, and that someone was my Aunt Teresa. I can honestly say that if I hadn't had her as a teacher, I probably would not be standing before you as valedictorian. I would have continued as that B student that never wanted to do any better in school. But Teresa took that tiny little spark and she turned it into a roaring bonfire. Suddenly, school was interesting and I wanted to get an A. I wanted to be the best in each of my classes except for track, because let's face it, Lauren, Caleb, and Christian are all so much better at that than I am. But most of all, I wanted to make her proud. Before 9th grade, I knew she was smart, but I didn't realize just how incredibly smart she really was and is. In each class I took from her, she imparted such knowledge to me. I was in awe of what she knew and could explain to me with such ease and confidence. I wanted to be just like her, and I still do. She gave me one of the most precious gifts I've ever received in my life, a love for learning. And no matter what happens in my life, that is a gift that can never be taken away from me. I hope that I will do you and that gift proud. You are one of my biggest motivations for going to university and pursuing a master's degree in engineering. It is one of my greatest aspirations, and I fully intend to achieve it. I must also thank my friends and family, as well as my other teachers, for helping me along the way. They've all believed in me and my abilities, even when I did not believe in them myself. I must especially thank my mom for all those pep talks she gave me when I'd come home from school almost in tears because I didn't feel like it was good enough or never would be. I found them incredibly irritating at the time because she didn't tell me what I wanted to hear, but she told me what I needed to hear. I owe a big thank you to Sharon for making English not the worst thing on the planet, and for introducing me to Shakespeare, which is something that I will cherish for the rest of my life. I also owe my music teachers, Doug Childs and Lois Faber, for imparting to me the gift of music. I must thank Mr. Faber for doing the very adulty task of teaching me about money and all that adulty stuff. You did it really well, and I learned a lot. I guess we'll see if I learned enough to go through college without debt. And of course, a lot of thanks to Naomi for always being there when I needed and listened to my woes or rants and when I was feeling overwhelmed. By example, my dad has shown me the importance of hard work, and work hard he does. He's a farmer and is usually working from sunup to sundown and beyond. If you want a fine example of a hard worker, just find a farmer or a rancher.
I am proud to be his daughter and to come from the humble beginnings associated with being a farmer's daughter. I know what it means to work hard and how to work hard. My brother's senior quote last year pretty much sums it up. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. There are so many other people that have helped me get to where I am today, so thank you for helping me reach my goal. I truly have a lot to be thankful for, and I am. I'm thankful to live in a country where as a woman I am free to pursue higher education and not be limited because I had the misfortune of being born a girl. I am proud to be a woman, and I am proud to be a woman, and I am proud to have been born and raised in a small community. Some might say that because I come from a small place in the middle of nowhere, I am entering the world at a disadvantage, but I disagree. I believe I have an advantage because living here I have learned the importance of hard work, integrity, and being respectful of all of those around me. We definitely don't have everything out here, and I may not have had all the opportunities I would have had living in Salt Lake City. But as a favorite saying in my family goes, we may not have it all together, but together we have it all. Thank you.
And since Caleb wanted to give a speech, it is now his turn.
I did not want to give a speech. I had to. And it's a real shame I had to follow Emily. You could tell it was a well-written speech and she knew what she wanted to say. It's the exact opposite of my speech. But I don't really know where to start. I thought giving a speech would be pretty easy, and I actually almost just wrote down some notes of what I should say on a piece of paper and then would come up here. Thankfully, I did not do that because the other night, or last night, my sisters and I were watching TV in our living room, and I'm not exactly sure what we were talking about, but Megan reminded me of something my Grandpa John had recently said. It goes, "Before I got up here, only God and I knew what I was going to say, but now that I'm up here, only God knows." I thought about that and decided I didn't want to get up here with a piece of paper with 5 words on it and then try to give a speech to a crowded room of people. So luckily I wrote this. Granted, it was in a panic last night and this morning and this afternoon, but that seems fitting because that's also how I did all of my homework in high school. High school is a blast, especially here at EskDale. The teachers here are some of the best. Nomi is a great administrator and would do anything for her students. Mr. Faber's classes, we always had some good times in those, and he was always interested in how we had done in basketball games or track meets. And I'm glad he was. Lois is incredibly passionate about her students and always wants the best out of them, and usually gets it because she's an incredible music teacher. Sharon somehow made me enjoy English, which was no easy thing to do. And Teresa is probably the smartest person I know, and she made every class easy no matter how hard the subject was. I'm also going to miss all the sports I played, and my high school sports career was pretty interesting. I played 3 sports for 3 different high schools, and it took a lot of help from outside sources for that to happen. To play football, I needed somewhere to live in Delta, and luckily Stephen and Bonnie Shamo, who are the nicest people in the world, were kind enough to open their home to me and make me a part of their family. For basketball, the school board, Tinnick and Millard, had to come together and make an agreement so us and West Desert could have a basketball team. And I'm really glad they did because basketball was my favorite sport by far. I'm really glad I got the chance to play it. Where am I? Oh, but for basketball, we also needed someone to drive us up to West Desert every day. And at first, that was Kaya. He is my first basketball coach, and he's the one that made me into a capable basketball player. Without him, I'd probably be trash. Still am, but less. And then when he left, he passed it on to someone who helped make my whole sports career possible, my mom. She worked hard and sacrificed a lot so that I could play football and so I could play basketball. I know it wasn't easy for her to have her little baby boy move away for a couple months, a year, but she survived. She was also my track coach for the last 2 years I did it, and she was good. She made me a lot better than I thought I could be. I almost medaled. I was pretty close at state. She and my dad also supported me through all my sports in all my years, no matter how bad or good we were. I'm gonna miss all my friends and the good times I had in high school. I'm gonna miss going to the border after basketball practice and sitting there watching basketball, talking about whatever. There's one memory that I thought of today, this afternoon, that I decided to include. There's this one night after basketball practice, me, Ricky, and Justin were heading home. We stopped at the border, so we're dropping Justin off, and we decided we should eat some food. So we sit down, we order, then I get a text from my mom that just says, "Get home." That gave me a mini heart attack, so I sent a text to stall. I'm like, why? It's a terrible question, but I needed time because we still had food on the way. So pretty much back and forth, I texted something that could buy me a little bit of time until we got our food. We threw them in some to-go boxes, paid, and then rushed home. Me and Ricky were speeding as we ate, but I wasn't quite done. So right before my doorstep, I shoved my to-go box full of food in my backpack. Walk inside the house, say hi to my family, walk into my room, and finish my supper. It was actually pretty terrifying. I was scared. I'm also gonna miss all the trips we had for choir or sports, whatever it was. We always had some good times. We stayed up all night messing around. Probably shouldn't have, but oh God. And believe it or not, I'm gonna miss all our trips to West Desert every day. The drives up were really fun because all of us boys, we were such good friends. We could make fun of each other and be mean, and nobody took it to heart. We all knew it was in good fun, and we always made fun for any stupid thing we did or said. Like Vince, for example. There are mountains probably 150 miles away in the distance. He's like, we were talking about the sunset on him, and he's like, yeah, those mountains are probably like 4 miles away. He got crap for that for a while. That was really funny. Yeah. It'll be strange to be so far away from Snake Valley, but I'm excited for the new opportunities I'm gonna have. And I don't know. I didn't write it. Like I said, not well written, not prepared. That's the end.
Good job, Caleb. That was very good. And if Emily would like to come and play her piano solo for us, while me and Caleb move the piano. Up next, if I could ask Gordon Rawlinson to come up. He is the newest Millard County Board member, and he is Dwayne Rawlinson's brother.
Well, thank you very much. As your board member, I am the representative for out here. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk. Hopefully I could make it so interesting enough that you guys won't fall asleep. Yeah, that would look bad, but my brother, before this started, he told me, do you know what KISS stands for? And I've been in the military. I said, yeah, keep it simple, stupid. And he said, no, it stands for keep it short, stupid. So I'm gonna do the KISS things. There was a couple things I wanted to talk about, but I've decided just to talk to these guys about something that I've been doing a lot of lately. I retired a couple years ago from the military, and I've been at my house, and I do a lot of babysitting, and I do a lot of mowing of lawns. So I thought I'd talk about mowing lawns. How am I gonna make this work? Stay with me, okay? Okay, this for you is a big milestone. And this is something, and it's a stepping stone too, but it's something that you've gotten that you can't be taken away from you. I mean, 40 years ago, I graduated high school at Delta High School. They haven't taken my high school diploma away, no matter what I did. So you've got your high school diploma. Now, the way I'm going to make this hook into the lawn mowing thing is this. Your lawn is like your life. And up until now, you've had your education, and your education is your lawnmower. When you were younger, in middle school, you had like a push mower. Well, right now you got a motor on that thing now. You can mow a big lawn, okay? You can mow any lawn you want with that mower. Now, it's good for yourself. You can mow your house. You want to keep it kind of small, maybe your own lawn, and maybe your friend's lawn or something like that. But just for yourself, you're going to be able to mow your lawn. But if you need to mow a bigger lawn, like your teachers, I mean, they wanted to have somebody besides just their family on their lawn. They had to go out and get their degree so they could actually mow and have you guys sit on their lawn. You guys have been sitting on everybody else's lawn. Now it's time for you to have a lawn. So now you're going to go out and you're going to mow your lawn. Some of you are going to have a tractor. I mean, some of you are going to have to mow a big place, like a farmer. You're going to have a tractor, and you're going to mow a big lawn, acres and acres, that everybody's going to enjoy. And some of you are going to have a small lawn. Maybe one the size of like your house, just so your kids and your grandkids, your spouse can sit on, and enjoy. Now, while you're mowing the lawn, there's two things that really tick me off when mowing the lawn. There's things called rocks, which I'm going to call stones because I'm going to put them in the milestone and stepping stone area. You're going to have stones on your lawn. And I'll tell you what, it really makes you mad when somebody throws a stone on your lawn. Sometimes you put stones on your lawn, like your milestones. You put them on there and say, I want to get a bachelor's degree. Or you say, I want to have a family or something like that. That's your milestone. Or a stepping stone, you're going along and you break your leg and you can't compete. Like, let's say you're a runner and you break your leg and you can't compete. Guess what? That is a stepping stone. You have to adjust, go around that rock. You might be able to drive over the top of it, but it might mess up your lawnmower. But anyway, what happens as you get older, you get to where you want to have more of an influence, and you're going to have a bigger motor than what you've got. If you want to get a bachelor's degree, you might be able to get a riding lawnmower. And you get a doctorate degree, you'll have a big tractor, be able to do whatever you want. And the problem with the riding lawnmower, it's kind of hard to mow just a little bitty lawn. I mean, you can mow it, but it's kind of overkill. So you're going to use your lawn more to help other people. So I guess what I want to tell you is go out and mow your lawn. Find a good lawn, plant a big lawn, and mow it so everybody can enjoy it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that speech. It was very easy to understand. Okay, if you guys would like to get comfortable, we are going to do the slideshows. Okay, and now the moment that we've all been waiting for. If all of the board members from the Millard County School District could come up and do the presentation of the diplomas.
You ready, guys? All right. 6 years. Mr. Caleb Baker. Mr. Christian Conrad. Ms. Emily Waite. And Miss Lauren Palfreeman. Have we all moved our tassels to the appropriate side? I present to you the class of 2017. After you congratulate the graduates, you can meet us for refreshments in the center next door. Thank you for coming.